Hello there, this is B More with Just a Bunch of Nerds, and I'm here to teach you the basics of how to play the game Dead of Winter. Put a screenshot in there. So if you already have this game and you're trying to figure it out, what I've got in front of us is the game setup. For those of you who have not seen the components of the game or my unboxing video, I'm going to show the different components and what I have set up here already. First thing we have the colony board, and there's different areas here. An area for the main objective, so I have a main objective picked out already. The starting objective that they suggest. There's a spot for crisis cards, and these are the crises you will face on a turn-to-turn basis. A waste pile. Everything you use in this game creates waste, whether it be food, health, everything leaves waste behind, and that can affect how your survivors react to things. Right here, there are spots available for survivors. I have 6 survivors picked out already, and the cards, I just picked them at random. Here's the food supply the colony has. A tracker keeping track of the morale, and a round tracker. Now on the objective, it has a setup telling you if any zombies need to be placed, how many rounds you're going to be playing, and what the starting morale is. Each card is double-sided. It's a similar objective, but there is the hardcore version as you get more advanced gameplay. Surrounding the board here, we have 6 off-site locations: police station, grocery store, school, library, hospital, and the gas station. For the objective, each one is set up with 1 zombie. Different spots on the location cards, they will have a varying number of circles up in the picture here, showing 2 to 4, and that is how many people can occupy the location before it is considered full. The next is each location has a unique deck of cards, and that is the results you get when searching the area. Obviously, if you're looking for fuel, a gas station will be your better bet, so that deck will have more fuel cards. However, if you are looking for weapons, the police station, there's even a little code on top showing you what you might find at the location. And I believe it shows actually in the order, like the grocery store will have the most food, but you're not going to find weapons. The gas station will have the most fuel available. The hospital will have medicine as its primary thing. And so you can go to these different locations and you can do searches. The other thing you'll notice is on each of these cards there is a biohazard symbol, along with there are 6 locations, each with 3 biohazard symbols in the colony area. And these are considered the entrances to the location. So the colony has 6 entrances, and if there are more zombies than there are spaces, so the police station has 1 entrance and it can take up to 4 zombies. If a 5th zombie goes there, that location is overrun. Being overrun means death. Someone is going to die if they're at that location. Alongside each deck of cards there are 4 symbols showing an ear. Those locations are places for your noise markers. Now I'll just show you the tokens we have here. We won't go into them, but we have zombie markers, barricades, food, starvation, frostbite, wounds, noise, and helpless survivors that you might come across during the game. So when the game starts, every player is dealt 5 supplies from the starter supply deck. And so there is medicine, fuel, food, there's junk, which allows you to re-roll dice. And so each player would get 5 of those to start. They would also be dealt 4 character cards. So we have the character cards here. Every character card will have their name, what their occupation was, any special ability, along with the location they can use their special ability. And then the 3 numbers up on the top relate to how influential they are as the top number. So this person has a 40, and the higher the influence, the better. Then the next symbol, little burst there with a 3+, and that shows how good you are at attacking. So the lower the number is, the better, and we'll explain why. That works with the action dice you roll. And finally there's a magnifying glass, and it has 3+ for this character, and that shows how good they are at searching. Lower numbers are better for that. So this person here, she has 28 influence with 3 attack and 1 search. So she is guaranteed to be able to search on any die roll. Whereas another character, like Forrest Plum here, is a very weak searcher and only searches on a die roll of 5 and up. So you'll receive your 4 character cards and you'll look them over and you will decide 2 that you're going to take. And then you will specifically choose one of them to be your leader and one to be a follower. And the idea is that each player controls one leader and survivors with a similar mindset to them. You create different factions in there. So we got the player card here. So you will be able to put your group leader underneath on this side here, viewable to everyone, and your followers down here. And 2 spots here for your action dice, which I'll get into as we get into gameplay, and finally the secret objective. And what the secret objective is everyone is dealt a secret objective card, and there are an assortment of objectives here, and there are some that are team-based, and there are some that say betrayal on the bottom. And in a standard game, you would take 2 objectives for every player, and so if you're playing 3 players, you take 6 objectives, 1 betrayer objective at random, and you shuffle them all together and then deal 1 card out to everyone. You even cut down on the cards to increase the chance of a betrayer, but in a basic game, 3 players, 7 cards, and only 3 of them get dealt out, there's less than a 50% chance there will be a betrayer in there. And so I'm just going to go over a couple of these objective cards. So obviously the main objective, which is right here, is what everyone's going for. In this case here, we need more samples. They're trying to collect viable samples when they kill a zombie. Try to keep the body. You collect enough of them, then the game is considered won. But to win the game, you have to win your secret objective to individually win it. So we got one here, Historian. I'm just going to read this to you. You win the game if the following is true. The main objective has been completed, so you beat your main objective, and you have at least 2 book cards in your hand. It looks like a symbol of a book there. One of the items that you can find in there, so there's books, tools, weapons, which is the gun, food is a can, fuel is a gas can. Another one, you have at least 3 fuel cards in your hand. You only control 1 survivor, so your other survivor dies off and you don't get any additional ones. Another one is there are 12 survivors on the board, meaning you've got to try to keep everyone alive, because your winning depends on what all the survivors alive in the game are. So again, those will all be dealt. An example of a betrayal: you win the game if the following is true. Morale is at 0, and you have at least 6 food cards in your hand. Starter item cards do not count. So again, you get the deck of cards, you get starter cards, and they will say on the bottom, starter, and the rest of the cards will say what location they're from. So we'll take this one here, and it'll say food, but on the bottom it says 03 school to show what deck it's from. Whereas this one here says starter item, so you cannot count these towards your end of game objective in that case, because that's what it's directing you to. So when you get your player cards, every player will have their information. There's also a corresponding standee to them, so that's why I have 6 player standees in here, and they do look just like the pictures they have. Oops. Finally, we have here the first player token. The knife, it actually says first player on it. I don't know if you can see that. This goes to the player who has the highest influence group leader. So I haven't really picked out group leaders here, but you want to go with your highest one. And we've got Arthur Thurston here. He's the principal. He's got a 62. So he would be the first player if he was chosen as his group leader. So the way the game would work, it runs into 2 steps. So each round, there's a player phase and a colony phase. And the player phase, each player gets to take their turn doing their actions, and then they move on to the colony phase, where you kind of look at the state of everything going on and make some changes to the game, and then you move on to the next round, passing on the start player, beginning all over again with the player phase. So the first thing that happens is, before any of the players go, is a crisis is revealed from the deck. Zombie Surge. So what happens here is the number of non-exiled players, so the number of players in the game, we'll get into exiling later. We need to collect tool cards equal to the number of exiled players. So that would be put right there. And there is a penalty for failing it. Fail, add 6 zombies to the colony and 1 zombie to all other locations. So you'd add 6 to these locations and 1 to each of those spots. And then there's an optional, if you add an additional 2 tool cards, so if you needed 3, you add a total of 5, you gain 1 morale on the morale track. If morale reaches 0, and unless you're a betrayer, that is bad for you. That spells the end of the game. The next thing players would do, I'm just going to put this player card out here, is you would roll your action dice. So you start off with 1 action dice plus the number of survivors that you have. So everyone in the first turn would start off with 3. So they would roll these and they'd put them in your unused action dice. And remember on the player cards where it shows their searching and their fighting abilities, well, right now I have a 3, a 3, and a 1 that I can spend towards doing actions. Now the 1 is not useless. There are things that require you to spend an action dice that does not have any specific value. Other things will require you to actually have a number that matches your character. So each person would roll their dice and put them aside. And there are other ways. The more survivors you get in the game, the more dice you get. You can have action cards that will add, or item cards that you will find and you'll add to your characters, and that will allow you to roll more dice on your turn. And finally, the third step of the player phase. Now this has all been done, each player would take their turn taking their actions. So we're going to start off with one of the players here. And so what will happen is whoever is the first player, the person to the right of them, so that's going counterclockwise, will draw a card from this deck here. There are 80 Crossroads cards. What will be in there? Well, I don't want to go into a lot of them, but I'm just going to draw one of these cards and show what happens. So what will happen is the person to the right of that player will hold on to this Crossroads card and they will keep it secret. And the reason they're keeping it secret, it gives them something to look for, and they are not going to tip off what is going to cause this decision to be made, because that's what it is. It puts the player at a crossroads. And so I'm going to take a couple of them here just to show a couple of examples. So the player will be reading this one, and the scenario is lovers quarrel. If 2 human survivors, and they say human survivors because there is a dog survivor option. There is one player that is a dog. If 2 human survivors the player controls share a non-colony location, so these 6 locations, and they are the only 2 survivors of the location, that's what triggers this card. And so you would wait until that person does that. If the person has to move there, do an action to move there, that's fine, they would do that, and then it would be time to reveal this. So you'd reveal a little story here, and I don't like how much time you've been spending with them. You can't be serious, not now. The whole world has fallen to pieces, we're only barely able to keep ourselves alive, and now you want to revisit your jealousy issues? Grow up. So the active player has the option. Option 1, grow up. At least now I know just how low you'll let yourself sink. Add 4 noise tokens to the location the lovers share. So noise tokens go on here, and we'll get into them, but they have the potential to be bad. Anyone who's watched any zombie show, let's think The Walking Dead, you make noise, they hear you, zombies come running. Option 2, it's not that I don't trust you, it's him. You haven't seen his eyes follow you when you walk away. Come on, let's get away and I'll show you just how grown up I am. The lovers cannot attack, search, or move for the remainder of this turn. So the choices here would be this. Option 1, they decide to have their fight. They put out their 4 noise tokens, so there's potentially 4 more zombies coming to the area, and then they continue their turn. The other option they would have is they wouldn't create any noise, but they are done moving. Those 2 players cannot leave that location, cannot fight zombies, and cannot do any searches for the remainder of this turn. That is a decision they have to make. Just another one to give an example here. If the player controls Bev, place Bev at the school. If able, this does not count as a move. So there are different locations. Some are player specific, some are situationally specific. When it comes down to the options, if the player is not able to do one for whatever reason, something is blocking them from doing it in the game rules, then they have to take the other option. And these cards have to be played when it comes up. So this is something to keep players that are not involved in the game still. There are 80 of them, so in a course of even a 10-round game with 5 people playing, only 50 of them are going to be used, so there's always going to be some variety, and some of them, if the player does not have Bev, you can sit there, don't let them know that the card is not going to pertain to them. Maybe they'll get Bev during the game, maybe someone else has it, but let them keep wondering, because that is something you got to play into the game, and there are a lot of different Crossroads actions. I've played this game once, I'm not going to look through them, I want to find them organically as I play through. Back to the player turn, so that is how it starts off. The person to your right draws that card, and now you get to take your actions. And so we got the actions all written on here. And I'm just going to zoom in. Hopefully this will show up clear. So on the right side, player turn actions. And there are two sets. There's actions that require an action dice, attacking and searching, and those two actually involve an action dice using the card, so you need your 2+ or 5+ or whatever it is. You can barricade, you can clean waste, which is 3 cards, or you can attract the zombies. So attack is pretty straightforward. Let's just say we have someone who is 3 attack and 3 search, so I can go over the different actions they have. So they spend 3 die, and they attack a zombie that's at their location. So, in fact, you know, we're going to play through this a little bit differently. We're going to show kind of different moves in order. So there's actions that do not require an action die. Playing your card, adding a card to the crisis, moving a survivor, spending food tokens, requesting, handing off, or voting to exile. So we'll start with just the basic moving. So player 1, got the principal here. They're going to move him. Well, he's the principal. Let's go to the school. He's got an ability at the school. So we'll get into special abilities in a bit. So he moves there. Now, when you move, because it's winter, you're outside, there are zombies around, you're going to take this die and you are going to roll it. And it's going to show if you've got anything that happened to you on exposure. So there are a bunch of blank faces, and those are good. You've got a couple of wound tokens, so you take a wound. Doesn't mean you're instantly dead. You can take a few wounds in this game. There's a frostbite token, which counts as a wound, but also means if it goes untreated, you're going to get more wounds each turn. And finally, one side is a tooth. The tooth means you're bitten. You have died. So we'll say this person rolls. They get nothing. You've already moved to your location. Whatever you get, except getting bitten, you've already gotten to your location. So we'll... wrong way here. So I have now moved him to this location. Arthur has a 4+ attack ability, so he's not able to attack, but he is able to search because his search is 2+. So what he's going to do is he's going to spend one of his dice. That goes there. So he spends it and he gets to draw a card from the top of the deck here. So what happens is you get to draw a card automatically. But before you look at that card, you make a decision. Do you want to make some noise? So you decide you're going to search a little faster, find a few items. So you will take your one card, leave it face down. You'll make that decision. Right now there are no noise tokens on here, so he could make noise of 4, allowing him to draw an additional 4 cards. But if there are not enough empty spaces, you can only take tokens as the number of spaces equals to. But the thing is, when you do that search, you only get to keep one of those items. So if you're looking for something specific, it might be the risk you want to do. Now the thing is, with Arthur Thurston, again, the principal, has an ability. So it says school. That is the only place he can use it. Some people can use it anywhere or at the colony. So this one here, once per round, when performing a search at the school, you may look at and keep one additional card. So we're going to say, though, he decides to make some noise. So he'll draw his second card for his ability, and he will draw a third card for his noise. And so we got food, a megaphone, and 1, 2, 3 barricades. So he gets to choose 2 of these. Food is pretty straightforward. Other than helping with crisis, you can use it, puts food in the food supply for everybody. The megaphone works similar to the attract ability. And what it is, and I'll go over the attract ability in the megaphone here. The megaphone allows you to move 4 zombies from one location to a location your survivor is at. So if an area is close to being overrun and you're trying to help somebody out, you can either spend an action die and attract, and that attracts 2 zombies, or you could use this megaphone and draw some zombies away. You could draw them back to the colony just to possibly prevent someone from being overrun. Maybe someone made a lot of noise and there's already zombies there. You want to pull them away. Maybe you want to draw them close to the colony because you are trying to wipe them out. That is your decision. Here we have a card with an equip ability. And so I'm going to go over something here. Okay, when they say waste, what that means is you put it in the waste pile. You use it. So that's what it doesn't mean like you waste it to get food. No, it's, yeah, you're using it, you're creating waste, and you're getting food. But the book here, 1, 2, 3 barricades, equip. Once per round during your turn, you may build a barricade without spending an action die if the survivor is at the colony. So I'm just going to take 2 of these, and the other one would go back to the bottom of the deck here. And these would go into my inventory. So I've done searching. I've talked about attracting. Play a card. Well, let's go and say that he decided to play junk. So junk kind of counts as tools. What it allows you to do is re-roll one of your unused die. So I got this 1 here, it's not doing me anything. Good, now I've rolled a 5. His attack ability is 4+. So we're going to show the attack now. The attack stage is pretty simple when it comes to attacking a zombie. Yes, there are ways to attack survivors. So I move over that 5 because I have a 4+, and I simply capture this, or I destroy this zombie. In the ability for the game we're playing right now, the option is when you kill a zombie, you roll a die. If you roll 4 or higher, I did not, you get to keep the zombie on the objective because you are trying to, again, find those samples. So I've killed the zombie. That's a little too easy, isn't it? Well, it's not. Next thing you do is you roll the exposure die. And while killing that zombie, I don't know how, he accumulated a frostbite. Now, frostbite and wounds, they're just double-sided, so that would go onto his card. So there is a risk. There are certain cards that allow you to fight multiple zombies, only taking 1 roll, because you'd roll for each zombie you fought. You fight 5, you roll 5 times, you could potentially take 5 wounds. Another option you can do, you can spend a token, spend an action die, even if it's a 1, a 5, a 6, doesn't matter what it is, you can spend it, and at your location, build a barricade. And so there are 6 locations here, and the colony each have 3 tokens where zombies and barricades can go. But I'm at this location, so, I have another character over there, but I put a barricade there. And what a barricade does is as zombies get added to that area, they'll fill up those spots. If all the spots are full with zombies and barricades, the next zombie will knock out the barricade, but that also cancels out the zombie. So building barricades can help protect you, especially when you get into the colony, because the colony, the zombies are added rotationally around the building. Certain areas are more prone to getting zombies. Other options you have, I'm going to move this over a little bit here. You can add a card to the crisis. So in this case here, we are looking for tools. What is a starter tool we have? Well, we have junk. So I could, face down, play this card in the crisis contributions. The reason it's face down is because tool cards count towards the total. So in this case here, we need 3. I have placed 1 there. But let's say the next player goes and he's actually trying to betray us. And so he puts 2 food cards in there. They're put in face down. And then everyone will put in whatever they need to, and they will get shuffled up. And we will reveal to see if we've passed or not. But we'll get into that because that is the colony phase. But that is an option you can do without a die, is you can add a card to the crisis. So we've done move a survivor. You can play a card. So waste. And I've done that. You add 1 food into there. Another option you have, you spend those food tokens that are in there. If you're at the colony, you can spend 1 food token and you can increase one of your die rolls by 1. So you make that 4 into a 5, but it costs you a food token. And food tokens do have other benefits in the game that you have to watch out. So you don't want to use up too much unless you got a lot there, or a lot of people are out doing searches. You can also request items. Now when you request an item, you request from someone, hey, I need you to give me a food card. They will play the food card, put it in waste, and it's played automatically so everyone can see it. You can also give equipment around to other survivors that are at your same location. And again, equipment is done by the same way as playing your card. You play a card except you equip it to someone, and that will give you an ability. Let's just see if we can find an equipment card here. Wrench. Equip. Once per round you may spend an action die to attack with the survivor. This die does not need to meet or exceed this survivor's attack value. You have that equipped, put it on a weak attacker, and they can come out and attack with a 1 die. The final thing you can do is you can vote to exile. Once during each of his turns, a player may choose another player and initiate a vote to exile that player. Initiating a vote forces all players to simultaneously cast a vote with a thumbs up for yes or thumbs down for no to determine whether or not the chosen player is exiled. A player cannot initiate a vote to exile themselves. Remember, all ties are broken by the first player. This includes votes to exile. We'll get more into exile after, but you can kick people out of the colony. There's another set of cards that give you more objectives if you have been exiled from the colony. You're still in the game, you just have to stay in the outer locations and out of the colony. So when a survivor is killed, I'm just reading from the rulebook, as a result of a bit and roll, the bite affects spreads to the survivor with the lowest influence that shared a location with the bitten survivor. So this is where your influence abilities or influence amounts do play a factor in the game. Each time a bite effect spreads, the player that controls the survivor it's spread to must choose one of the following. Kill the survivor that the bite effect spread to, the bite effect stops spreading, or 2, roll the exposure die again. On a blank result, the survivor that the bite effect spread to is not killed and the bite stops spreading. On any other result, that survivor that the bite effect spread to is killed and the bite spreads again. The bite effect will continue to spread until a player either chooses option 1, rolls a blank, or there are no more survivors at the location. So if a person moves back from the library to the colony, they roll and they get the bite, they die, but because there are other people at the location, you'd look at who's the lowest, and let's just say right now there's Greybeard, the pirate. Yes, he is a pirate. He is 16, he would be the lowest, and so then whoever controls him would make the decision. Are they going to push their luck and try to save him, or are they just going to let him die and kill him off, ending the bite from happening? Right, so next thing I'm going to talk about, survivors that are helpless. So this one here, 2 survivors, so it allows you to draw 1 survivor from the deck, and so you add that survivor to your pool, grab his standee, put it in the colony, and the next thing that you're going to do is it also says grab 1 helpless survivor. So you're going to put this survivor here, and got a couple sides to it, but you will place it into one of these spots. Now, if all those spots are full, no more survivors can enter the colony. And so that person there, they take up space, they will take up food, but they are helpless, they have no benefit to you. Also, if you are overrun by zombies, the actual named characters die before the helpless ones. The only way the helpless ones will die is if everyone else is gone, then you will eliminate a helpless survivor. When a survivor dies, the morale track, and I know I've kind of knocked it aside here, will go down 1. And remember, going down is bad unless, of course, you are trying to betray, then that is beneficial to you. But as soon as it hits 0, the game is over. So we're going to move on now to the next phase of the game, and that is the colony phase. So now that everyone's done all their actions, you're going to go through in order a bunch of steps to see what the status of the colony is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pay food. So for every 2 survivors in the colony, so right now we've got 5 standees and 1 helpless survivor, you have to pay 1 food. And that is rounded up. So if you had 7, would be the equivalent of 3.5 food, well, you just round it up to like you had 8 survivors and you would pay 4 food for those survivors. So in this case here, I was not really playing cards, so there's no food in the supply area. So what you'll do is you do not remove any of the tokens in there if there's not enough food. You'll take one of these starvation tokens. It's an empty can, and you will put it in the supply area. And what you'll do is you will lower the morale by 1 for each starvation token. So that means if you starved in the past, you're going to have 2 in there, your morale will go down 2 this turn, or 3 the next turn. So letting your group starve on a repetitive basis, not good for you. The reason you only count the ones in the colony is the people that are off searching, like Arthur here. He's considered to be finding his own food and foraging. He can't eat what's back at the colony, so they do not count towards that total. The next thing you do is you will check waste. And so in this case there's only 2. But the thing is even in Apocalypse, people do not like living in filth. At least that's the way I'm understanding how it works in the game. And so for every 10 cards that you have in the waste area, you will decrease morale by 1. And that is why you have an action die option that allows you to remove 3 cards from the waste area from the game. Because the more cards you're playing, the more waste is going to end up there, and it's going to cost you morale as the game goes on. In fact, in the game that I played, that was the final contributing factor, is there was enough waste played on the last turn that lowered our morale even though we met our objective, because you do this first. The next thing you do is you add zombies. So for every location that there's a person at, so in this case there's just 1 here, we will add 1 zombie. So the next thing is the main location. You will add 1 zombie for every 2 people there. So again, we have 7 there. This will be rounded up, so we will put 4 zombies into this area. So I'm just going to remove this card out of the way. And the way zombies get placed is you place 1 at 1, and then at 2, and then at 3, and so we need to place 4. And the 4th one will go there. Next turn, you'll start at 1 again. So 1, 2, possibly even 3 are going to get zombies every single turn. This is where attracting them. Maybe you want to attract them to the other side of the building where there's going to be less likely anyone to come. This is where if we had enough zombies here, Let's just go like this. So there's 3, and we had to add zombies in there. First zombie, go to spot 1. There is no zombie space available. That zombie will break in through. That zombie goes away, and you kill off your lowest influence survivor right there. So that's why you need to keep up on them. Say we put a barricade there, and a zombie has to come to that location. I'll just take this one here. I have the rest of the zombies away in a box, so that's why I'm just recycling them here. So they would go onto that barricade, it would knock them both out, and you would then move on to spot 3 and then spot 4 as you go through. The other thing you do is you take your noise tokens. One at a time, you would remove a noise token and roll a die. 1, 2, or 3, you add a zombie to that location. 4, 5, or 6, you're safe. Making noise is a 50-50 gamble, so you got to make the decision. Is that important to you to get that extra searching ability? The next objective, check to see if the main objective has been achieved. If it has been achieved, the game ends immediately. Every time a zombie is killed, roll a die. If the die result is 4 or higher, add a zombie token to this objective. Accumulate 3 zombies on this main objective for each player that has started the game. 3-player game, you need to get 9. 5-player game, you need to get 15. And that's 50-50 chance. Every zombie you kill will go there. Finally, you'll move the rounds tracker. Simply so you start at 6, 5 rounds to go, and the first player token will get passed on. So we talked about exiling a player. And so if a person is voted into exile, what will happen is that person will take all their players and they will move them out of the colony to different locations, or they can move them all to the same location. This counts as a standard move, meaning you will have to roll your die to see if you're going to get hit by any of the effects, take a wound, get bitten on your way out, so each person would roll. This one move, though, does not count towards the move that a player can make on their turn. And I forgot to mention, when it comes to moving, you're allowed to make 1 move per character per turn, unless it says otherwise. Such in this case, exile means that they will get that move and then they'll still be able to make another move again. They can move to another location. So once players have been exiled, they cannot add cards to the crisis. And it seems I skipped over, between check waste and add zombies, you do have to actually resolve the crisis, in which you would flip over the cards, you'd shuffle them so that no one knows who contributed what, and then you'd reveal them. And so in this case we were looking for tools, so we needed 3 because we're sending out a 3-player game. So 1 tool for positive, but the food, anything that's not counting, is a negative, so this would be a -1. These would be removed from the game. This crisis would be failed, causing 6 zombies added to the colony. Again, so you do the same zombie adding. This would happen before zombies would be added normally. And then we get ready for a crisis on the next turn. So once again, yes, exile, they cannot add cards to the crisis. The exiled player can still get extra followers, but if they have a card that requires them to add a helpless survivor, you do not add them, and your regular survivors would simply be added to a non-colony location. The exiled player cannot use the food tokens in the food supply. Obviously, they're not there, but they can play their food cards, and that will result in the same, and increasing their die roll by 1. When it comes to voting, and there are other situations that a vote will be called for in the game, exiled players cannot vote. If one of the survivors from the exiled player is killed off, it does not affect morale. And when they play a card using the waste ability, it's just removed from the game. It does not add to the waste pile, because again, they are not there. Now, upon being exiled, the exiled player will draw one of these exile cards, and it has 2 scenarios on it. And it will adjust your secret objective. Because you may be the betrayer, or maybe they thought you were the betrayer and they kicked you out. So in this example, barter. If you're not the betrayer, reveal your secret objective to all players and remove it from the game. Your new secret objective is now the following. You must have 4 medicine cards in your hand. If you are the betrayer, the first goal on your secret objective will change to the following. You must have at least 3 book cards equipped to survivors you control. Now, I just took a quick glance through all of them. If you are exiled and you're the betrayer, or if you're not, it's obvious. If you're not the betrayer, you reveal it right away, and then you start on your new goal. If you are the betrayer, you just adjust your goal, so everyone will know whether or not they exiled the betrayer or not. You can have combat amongst 2 players. So in this case here, we're going to say that Arthur Thurston is at the school, and we got Bev Russell, who different player controls, goes to the school and decides to use, she has a 2+ attack, so decides to use that spend the 2, and attack Arthur. Then what will happen is, so that die that has been spent is given to the other player. Arthur has a 4+ attack, so he has to prevent the attack. If he rolls his attack or higher, so 4, 5, or 6 in this case, he prevents any damage from happening. The player will take 1 wound if they were attacked and are not able to defend themselves. And then what will happen is the player who successfully attacked gets to take 1 card at random from the other player's hand. So it allows you to take items from them. Maybe that's why you're attacking them. Maybe you want something from them. Maybe you know they're the survivor and you're exiled, or vice versa. Maybe you just want to throw some variety into the game. So I'm just going over the rule book here and just a few side notes just to add in. When it comes to voting, voting is done on a thumbs up, thumbs down basis. So it's not random. Everyone can see what their vote is. And it's not based on the number of survivors you have. Each player gets a vote. So like each leader gets a vote. And on the count of 3, everyone will give a thumbs up or thumbs down, and that will determine the vote. If at any time in the game your leader dies, but you have other survivors available, you will pick one of your other followers, and they will become the new group leader. Ways to end the game, and there's a variety of ways. If the morale track reaches 0, the game ends immediately. If the round track reaches 0, the game ends immediately. And again, you do not check to see if the secret objective has been reached. So you get your however many rounds, 6, 8, 10. Every card will be different. And the third way is you get to your check objective and the objective has been met. Then the game will end. And so in this game there's multiple winners and losers. I mean, it is a cooperative game. You can even play, although it doesn't really fit the theme, but you can play without a betrayer. And then everyone's going for the same objective. Of course, some people win more because they complete their secret objective. If by chance all your survivors die, you are not out of the game. Well, you can make the decision on whether or not you're out of the game or not. Discard everything you have. Your equipment will go to other players that are at the same location as you. So even if a single character dies, they can give up their locations. If you die out exploring in a certain area, you can shuffle in your cards back into the respective deck. So let's turn over what happens when someone dies in the game. So anytime someone dies, including the helpless survivors, morale goes down 1, with the exception of exiled survivors. But if a non-exiled survivor dies, morale goes by 1. You remove the standee from the game, you remove their card. If they are at the colony, the player who controls them will take their equipment into their hands. And if they had items on them and they were at another location, so let's say you were at the grocery store and you had the wrench equipped, that wrench will be shuffled into the grocery store's deck or into the school's deck. So not back to where it came from, where it is, so it can be found by other survivors who go there. If your group leader has been killed, you will then pick one of your followers to take over as the group leader. And if you've lost your last remaining survivor, you will then remove all cards in your hand from the game, remove all your tokens, remove all your standees, and then draw a new card, get a new standee, and that player will be your new group leader. So you've started a new group of people that have joined the colony. Overall, I'm really impressed with this game. It took a long time for me to get it. Thank you, Plaidhat Games, for sticking with it and finally getting this game out. I don't know how publicly available it is, but it took me a while, but my pre-order has come in. I just got it in the beginning of February. Not really sure how this game would go. My first group that I played it with, not really into betrayal games, but the game went off really well, including one player being the betrayer, although it was difficult trying to not be too obvious about it. I want to thank you again for taking the time to watch this video. This has been Be More with Just a Bunch of Nerds, signing off.